All right, this meeting is now on YouTube Live.
Okay, thank you, Devin.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see everybody. If we could please, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the
flag
flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic
for
which it
it
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. If I could have a roll call, please.
Peggy Bossy,
Here.
Paul Godwin,
Here.
Chris Euster,
Here.
Karen Kellums,
Here.
Dan Downey.
Here.
This meeting is a meeting of the Deer Park Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Due to the COVID-19 national pandemic, community input is being suspended for this meeting.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
So move.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving tonight's meeting agenda, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I would like at this time for a motion to move to executive session.
So moved.
Move.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of going to executive session to review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are heading to executive session. We shall be back.
Can you see me, Jay?
Bye.
Hey, can you see me? I'm here.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Paul. Hi,
Hello.
Karen.
Did I beat Peggy back in? Heck yeah.
All right.
I'm working on getting Chris and Dan back in.
Gotcha.
Might be just a minute.
So I did my pickup at Amity and my drop off with a Chromebook and everything. It went like super easy. I was in and out within like 6 minutes.
Good.
Got to see Diane from a
Awesome.
distance.
That's awesome.
Is that everybody? Is that Chris and Dan trying to beat in? Devin, are you able to help them?
They have not entered the meeting yet because they're not an attendee to approve yet.
They said due to being removed, they're not able to log back in.
Let me see. Have them restart their computer and then try to re-enter the meeting because I'm not seeing anything that would block them.
Okay. They're working on it. The joys of technology.
Great when it works.
Looking forward to the day where we can meet in person again.
Agreed.
Devin, by kicking them out, there isn't anything that would like block their IP address from getting back in, is there?
No, there's not. Everything looks, it would just almost like if I moved them out of the meeting, they should be able to rejoin the waiting room and I reapprove them.
Okay.
Almost like how you guys left the meeting and rejoined.
One thing to note is we'll make sure that everybody logs out on their own accord instead of Devin having to remove you if we ever have to go into executive session during a virtual meeting.
Can you sing a song or something, entertain us? Jay?
No, I don't think those watching our board meeting live would like that too much, Karen.
Never know, we could be YouTube sensation.
There you go.
Let's hope not.
If once they get rebooted and they retry, they should be good to go. I just tested on my NJ.
Okay. To the 10 people watching this right now, I apologize. Devin, Chris said she tried. You may want to give her a call. I put her on our group text so that you could help her.
Understood.
I think if all else fails within the next minute or two, if we can't get them logged in, I'll put them on a three-way chat on my phone so that we can hear them and they can hear us. And
Okay,
I think we move on in that capacity.
good idea.
here as well, Jay. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, I've got Chris and Dan here virtually on my end, and so we can get the meeting going. Devin's going to check the settings because when he removed them from the meeting, it just locked them out and they couldn't get back in. So I've got them virtually on my end and they can hear you and we can hear them. So
Okay,
All right, then we're ready to resume our meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Peggy Bossy,
Here.
Paul Godwin,
here,
Chris Huster,
Here.
Karen Kellums. Oh, Karen, you got to unmute, sorry.
Here, sorry.
Dan Downey,
And I'm here as well.
thank you.
All right, we are moving on to agenda item number 7, district recognitions and donations.
okay, thank you. We have quite a bit of recognitions and donations this evening. I'm going to start out with donations. And once again, as typical, I'm going to ask you to approve these donations later in the agenda under superintendent's recommendations. But the first donation item I'd like for you guys to know about is $200 that we received from an anonymous donor that will be put towards student lunch accounts at the discretion of the food service directors to pay off late fees and charges. So we've had several of those this year and it's very much appreciated. I know our families appreciate it and it helps us to even out our accounts. So thank you to that person who donated $200. And then the second donation is in the amount of $25 from Elizabeth Feldhaus in the memory of Carol Noland to be used at the discretion of the superintendent. So thank you to Elizabeth for that donation as well. Those are our two donations this evening. Any questions, comments?
We have lots of generous people who continue to give.
Yes, we do. Okay, for my recognitions, I have several recognitions this evening. First of all, we've been pushing this back. Several of these we've been pushing back for some time now because we wanted to be able to recognize them in person, but unfortunately this year we can't do that. So my first recognition is to recognize all the accomplishments of this year's winter sports teams. That's our bowling, our girls junior varsity and varsity basketball programs, our boys junior varsity and varsity basketball programs, our cheerleading programs, and our wrestling programs. We had another successful year. I think most people know about our boys basketball, made it to the Elite Eight. Unfortunately, again, we were shut down because of COVID-19, but they were going to be battling for hopefully another state championship. That would have been 2 and 3 years, and that's an unbelievable accomplishment. They were well on their way. So they also had several players that were recognized in the CHL. Steve Gentry was co-player of the year in CHL.
How do you spell
and
that?
Deshaun McIntyre.
Oh, I had a yeah, you had a teacher bring them
come on,
directly
one
to you
second.
guys. They're not going to be on the sheet.
Okay.
We'll just annotate
Devin,
the serials
Devin,
because those are only going
Devin,
to be in
you're
my
not on
so I'll
mute.
put the serials.
thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Devin, you're not on mute. Thank you. Okay. For the boys basketball, again, Steve Gentry was co-player of the year. We had Jamarian Jones, Deshaun McIntyre, Trey Munson. I believe they were all second team CHL. Nia Elliott was first team CHL. So we had quite a few recognitions there. Girls basketball, Kenzie Schneeman was first team all CHL. I believe Kiara Crockett was honorable mention in the CHL. Boys bowling, they finished second in the CHL, and our girls bowling team actually were CHL champs. And I believe Chelsea Hammer was the leading scorer this year. So another successful winter sports season for all of our winter sport athletes. So congratulations to all of them. And hopefully next time we can recognize them in person again and provide them the recognition they deserve. My next recognition is that the next group that I'd like to recognize is the Deer Park High School Winter Guard. This was the first year that we had a Winter Guard, and they actually placed first in the Tri-State Performing Arts Winter Guard competition at Milford High School back on March the 7th. And it was the first time, obviously, in that competition. And so the first time we placed first, and that's a pretty amazing accomplishment for a group that's just really starting out. I mean, they've been doing it for a while, but we haven't had Winter Guard specifically. So great job to that team as well, and to Brenda Livingston, who is their coach. They did a fantastic job. The next recognition, I'm actually going to skip down to the night of the fight. I would like to recognize these students who took part in night for the fight. this year. I believe it was at UC, University of Cincinnati's, I think Fifth Third Arena, I believe. But these students worked hard leading up to this, and then work with other students for, and basically it's called Night of the Fight because they spend the night, do activities, and raise a bunch of money in the honor of cancer-free kids. And those students are Olivia Hedges, Bailey Walker, Haley Young, Bree Hill, Maddie Drannon, Abby Mapes, Audrey Brewster, Josette Fisher, Kirsten Cordray, and Lindsay Dororick. They raised, I think, close to $5,000. I'd have to go back and look at the statistics from Olivia that she sent me. But what a great accomplishment, and it's awesome to see a bunch of Deer Park kids working for the betterment of others and just doing great things. I thought it was really cool to see. And again, I wish we could have them in person and have them talk about it. And maybe when we get back together in person, we can do that. But I just wanted to make everybody aware before we got too far away from it.
I love how it's growing, like how passionate people are about it. I remember when they first started, wasn't that Peggy, when your kids were in there, that, how it's getting bigger, like the Deer Park people being aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And it continues to spread. And again, they're passionate about it. Olivia Hedges, sometimes some of these things you don't hear or see. And Olivia made sure she brought it to me and said, "Hey, Mr. Phillips, did you know we're doing this?" And I didn't know at the time. And so, those are just great things that our kids they're not doing it for the recognition. Obviously, they're doing it because they're good people and they want to do great things for our community. But at the same time, I want to see it because I love it. And I want to be able to recognize these groups and these kids. So we have an awesome group of kids. And this just shows some of the things that they do. My last recognition, and again, we'd love to be able to do this in person, but we can't. We were actually going to do it March 17th until we had to really shut everything down. We will want to recognize Bob Winterberger with a Hats Off Award. Bob was our interim assistant principal. Most people know Michelle Ellis, who is a great lady. She's our assistant principal at Amity Elementary, has been battling cancer herself and has been battling some health issues. And we knew going through the treatment she had to go through this year that we would need some support, and Michelle would need some support. And Bob came on. I talked to Bob last summer. Bob is a former principal out in the West Claremont district and Lakota schools as well. And I talked to Bob and asked him if he could come on and help us out. And I think he did more than that. He was just a tremendous impact to that building, to the students, to their families. This was within the first couple months of school. And I was talking to Bob, and he was already making home visits to kids to try to build relationships with their parents and them, to try to, especially some of the kids that maybe were having some difficult times with grades or attendance or making friends or just behavior. He went out of his way to really try to forge those relationships and make those kids and those families feel valued. I think he went out of his way to make our teachers feel valued. He spent a lot of time.
He was outstanding.
Yeah.
He is outstanding.
He was definitely a great find for us. And Bob's just been very complimentary of the school district as a whole itself too. But, I talked to him today on the phone. I just said, I said, "Bob, I don't think you understand the impact that you had on, in the small time that you were here, the impact that you had on our teachers and our principals. I've got 2 young administrators there at Amity Elementary, a first-year principal, Mr. Dreward, and a second-year assistant principal, and Mrs. Ellis. And he, I think he just was a great influence and a great role model for them as well. So he helped us all around, just made a significant difference at Amity, especially, I hear it from the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teachers too. He spent a lot of time in that 5th and 6th grade hallway and really working with those kids at those grade levels. And again, I never heard one bad thing about Bob, and just made a lot of positive contributions. So thanks to Bob, and thanks for all he has done. And he said he would like to come back and thank the board personally when he can come back in person. So if we come back in July or August, Bob will probably be there, and I know he wants to say a few things. So that is it for my recognitions. Does anybody have any comments?
Yeah.
You're a very blessed district right now.
I would agree.
Agreed.
Okay, that's the end of my donations and recognitions.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to approve the April 21st regular board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the April 21st, 2020 regular board meeting minutes, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to our treasurer financial report.
Alrighty, so for the April 2020 board report, there's a couple things I wanted to point out to you all. The 2300, which is Board of Education Support Services, there was an increase in consulting during this time. It was due to time-intensive cases. It's just something we need to do to make sure that we are remaining in compliance as a district. The 2900s, which is Central Support Services, there was an increase between this month, this year, and this month last year because of the equipment for employees to continue while they're either working from home or because of the pandemic. Also the 7000s, which is transfers and advances out, and the 900s, which are other non-operating expenses. And that's related to our school-wide pool. It really boils down to timing from the last transfer to the April transfer. We're actually back in rhythm now with when we were transferring it last year. Part of it was because I was on leave through October through December, but now we're back in the right rhythm. You'll see that kind of leveling off. Overall, we are under on expenditures for this month compared to the same month last year. I bet you guessed it already. It's because the buildings were closed all of April. And what was spent was 17 grand less. So we are under of what we were spending last year by that amount, which is significant. It's amazing how much water you don't use when the buildings are closed. So that is my board financial report for April of 2020.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the April 2020 financial report, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, you have recommendations.
All righty, my first recommendation is the recommendation to authorize to invest. I enjoy doing this one every year. This is for the mobile home real estate tax revenue. It's not very much, but it was more than it was last year. It's maybe one day we'll make it over $100, who knows. The other one is a redemption. That is our normal one that we do every month for accounts payable, outstanding checks, and payroll. As you can tell, it's a lot less than we usually do because we didn't spend as much last month. So that's my first recommendation.
I have a
So
motion.
moved.
Thank you. All right, any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the two authorization to invest with Star Ohio, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Alrighty, my next recommendation for tonight is the adoption of the 5-year forecast, which starts July 1 of 2020 through June 30 of 2024. It's for a 5-year forecast. I want to give you a quick takeaway and major points. So our state reduction, which was $295,000, 112, that was done for this fiscal year, is in this forecast. We wanted to make sure we got that in the forecast before we turned the forecast in. We wanted to make sure that that reduction was in there. It is a 10% reduction on our state aid, but just remember that our state aid only accounts for 23% of our overall revenue into our budget. So we are very much locally funded. Per guidance from tenured treasurers in education, I've placed the same dollar reduction in FY21 that was reduced in FY20. So it's not a 10% on a 10%, it's just the exact same dollar figure that they used. That's going to give us the best idea of the reductions that are going to come next fiscal year. And if we don't have reductions that high, then our 5-year forecast will look better than it does right now. But I definitely wanted to put something in there for next fiscal year. The governor's office is kind of waiting for the bottom, which is when the revenues stop decreasing and they start increasing to address what kind of cuts they'll make next year. Since the CARES Act funds are actually going into a different fund account, which is not our general fund, we can't really put the revenues back in to our 5-year forecast, but we can do the next best thing. We can reduce expenditures by the same amount, which kind of shows the same thing. So with the CARES Act, we're getting $259,148.20. That's our simulated amount at this time. So that shows just a little bit around 35,000 that we have to make up. And just by what I said with the April expenditure overview, we're already saving $17,000. So we'll have to see what Savings May has for us as well. But just to give you an idea, overall of the 5-year forecast, our net cumulative change is a positive $589,000. The reason for that is we added the Kenwood project tax collection increase, which is $200,000 a year starting in FY23. And we have 2 more years on the forecast there. So that's why the increase is there. Also, congratulations to Deer Park residents. Our property tax estimates are up from the county auditor. So that means your homes are worth a little bit more than they were this time last year, which is great for the school district and great for the residents. So also conservative spending that we decreased a little bit of the budgets last year, and that made an impact to the forecast. So just to give you the bottom line right here, we were looking to deficit spend. We're actually looking to deficit spend more than $100,000 less this year. So that's really good for us as a district. That's with the cuts that we're getting from the state level. So I'm very proud of everybody at Deer Park that has worked to be fiscally responsible with the money. So that is my recommendation, is to adopt the 5-year forecast for the next 5 years.
So move.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, excuse me, of approving the 5-year forecast from July 1, 2020 through June 30th of 2024, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All righty, my next recommendation for the night is a resolution accepting the amounts and rates. These come from the county auditor annually, every year, and it coincides with the tax budget that we board approve in January. So the county auditor sends us projections of the revenue for the 2020-2021 budget. We then take that into our 5-year forecast, which these numbers are in our 5-year forecast, and then we can more accurately depict what our revenues are going to be at the local level. So as you can tell, we have an increase. It was around 158,000 for local revenue. So when I say your tax values are up, that's again good for you guys, and it's good for the school district as well. So that's my recommendation, to accept the amounts and rates.
So
So
moved.
move.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the resolution accepting amounts and rates, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, my last recommendation for tonight is recommend approval of the annual formal Deer Park Wildcat Boosters recognition. We do this annually so that we can work with the Wildcat Boosters as a district and a board of education and to remain in compliance.
Can I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the annual formal Deer Park Wildcat Booster recognition, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, reports of the superintendent.
Yeah, so I have 2 reports this evening. 2 things that I'm going to touch on. One is graduation details, and then another one, my second report is going to be about our reopening task force, which I have just a few details about. But with the graduation details, I just want to make everybody aware. Several weeks ago, we put out a release talking about our virtual graduation that we're going to be doing in conjunction with Local 12. It's going to air on either Channel 12, Star 64, or the CW network. I'm not sure, and even their producers aren't sure which station is going to air on. I think it's just based on availability. It'll usually air 2 to 2.5 weeks after we get everything in to them. And so they're looking at the 1st of June. Originally, our target date was May 21st, but that was before we were able to get approval from the Hamilton County Health Department, Public Health Department, and Deer Park Police to be able to have our drive-through graduation, which I'm going to talk about next. But part of that drive-through graduation is photographs. Jake is going to take high resolution photographs. We have to have high resolution to send to Local 12. So we're going to get a picture of every graduate in their cap and gown on Thursday night. And it'll be high resolution. So we'll have part of that already down as well with our drive-through graduation. But with the drive-through graduation, we're asking our students, each student, we have 86 senior graduates. Each student is going to be able to bring their family in a single car. So, you know, we ask graduates not to have more than one car, unless you have a brother or sister in your grade as well. Each graduate can have one car. So the Damron family, they can have 4. They can have 4 cars. We're going to have probably five different lines in the back parking lot. In single file, we're going to have administrators and police back there. And it doesn't matter what order people are going to arrive in. They're going to arrive between 4:40 and 5 o'clock. We're going to have 2 attendants at the front. So our entrance and our exit in the back parking lot are both going to be entrances. Nobody's going to leave during that time. And every car that pulls in is going to have to stop. We're going to ask who the senior is in the car, and then they can pull up. And then we're going to have people park the car single file behind one of 5 cones. Okay, so we'll have 5, maybe 6, depending on the room. We were looking at that the other day. Single file lines. And then we'll have somebody basically remove a cone, allow one car to go, put the cone back, go to the next line, allow one car to go. And we'll do that the whole way. And they'll head towards the bus compound. Dr. Orso will actually be at the head of the bus compound, and she is going to radio into Mrs. Robertson and Greg, who will be in Greg's office. That way we can actually announce when the car pulls up who the senior graduate is. And then they're going to exit the car, come to the top of the stairs. We're going to give them their diploma cover. They actually receive their official diploma the following day when they come and do their senior checkout, bring out, get all their stuff from the office, and then bring, anything else, computers or whatever it might be that they have to check out. They actually get their diploma at that point. But they'll get their diploma cover, and then we'll have a photo opportunity. They'll get back in their car. They'll actually drive down the sidewalk, continue down the sidewalk towards the tennis courts. And there, we're actually going to stop them one more time and have them come out of the car. And that's where we're going to have our step and repeat, our Deer Park background. And we'll get a picture of them, high resolution photo of them in front of the Deer Park background. And that's what we're going to use to send into Local 12 for our high resolution photo, because a lot of the photos that we gathered that students sent us for like the Wickshire senior supporting seniors, they aren't high resolution, and they have to be high resolution for a television. So that's why we're doing that. Again, I'm going to ask that families, aunts, uncles, grandma, grandpa that aren't in the car, they're going to have to view it on our social media. We're also going to work to have it on our website. But what we can't have are cars parking on Plainfield Road, and Union Savings Bank across the street, or over at St. Savior. The police aren't going to allow that. Again, we have to abide by the mass gathering order. And we also have to adhere to all the social distancing requirements, which means that we're asking everybody to wear masks. Everybody that's working is going to be wearing a mask, and every senior that gets out will have to have a mask on as well. I'm going to say this publicly right now. No offense to our seniors, but when they come to the top of the stairs, we're not going to shake hands with everybody. Again, we're just trying to adhere to all the regulations, and it's no slight to our seniors. Obviously, we care about them, we love them, and we're glad and happy for their accomplishments. But we're going to hand them their diploma. We will be wearing gloves, but just in order not to cross-contaminate, we're not going to shake hands. But we will give them their diploma cover, head back down the steps, drive towards the exit, get out one more time for a picture, get back in. I know there has been some chatter in the community about a senior parade. Again, we are not permitted to do a parade. And I pitched the idea of just having people on Donna Lane and back in Dillonvale just come to their front yards, and we go door to door and let them know that our seniors are graduating. We'll be driving by. If you could just come out in your front yard to cheer them on. Unfortunately, it really just promotes gatherings. Intentionally, unintentionally, it promotes gatherings, and no matter what we say or do, it's hard to prevent that from happening, which then makes it very difficult for law enforcement. And then also they start getting a pickle when they're trying to enforce it, because obviously that can get ugly. And so we've just been told we're not doing a parade, and we will adhere to that. We'll abide by that. But I am thankful that they're allowing us to bring our seniors back on campus one last time to recognize them and be able to give them their diploma and say congratulations and really show them the respect that they deserve. Hopefully this is a little something that we can do for them in addition to the virtual graduation. I'll be on Local 12. But I think all in all, it'll be a good night, and hopefully the rain will hold off Thursday night and we'll be able to have a great ceremony. You have any questions about graduation?
No,
Okay.
thank you for all your hard work to get something figured out for our seniors. They've had a lot of recognition. I mean, it's been really different, but I think we've had a lot of really good things happening to celebrate them.
Yeah, thank you. And it obviously it's not ideal for anyone,
Mhm.
but it is. We're doing our best to try to again show them the respect and that they deserve and that they've earned. And I want to just say thank you to Jake Snyder as well, who's done a really fabulous job of putting together the different award events that he's published and put online. I think he's done an outstanding job with that, and so thank him for that as well.
The senior residence home has done an outstanding job too. I think that what them they took on down there is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I'm glad you brought that up. I had that in my notes for our board discussion, but since we're down that line right now, I would agree. Wickshire and what they've done to support our seniors, the senior supporting seniors videos have been outstanding. I don't know if you've been able to catch many of them, but they are on Facebook and they've been really cute. I think the residents enjoy it. I know I've enjoyed watching it, and hopefully our seniors have enjoyed it as well. But I thought that whole idea of seniors supporting seniors was just a great idea, and appreciate Wickshire coming on board and being partners with us in that.
Well, they're going to continue being partners with us too, and that's really great because they have a lot to offer, and we have a lot to offer them. I think it's just a perfect committee.
I agree. Thank you, Chris. My next report is regarding our reopening task force. And I think many school districts are doing this, but what I'm going to do is form a task force, and we're going to start with administrators, teachers, possibly some parents. But then I think it's going to probably break out into an elementary and a high school if I would have to guess from there, from the big first meeting. But what I'd like to do before we even form this task force is really get a little bit more guidance from the governor. There's been so many rumors, I think, over the last week, whether we're going to open school normally next year. I've heard that, grades 7 to 12 are going to be virtual and fall sports will be canceled, and grades K to 6 will be half in person and half virtual. Then I heard that it was just going to be a recommendation. It was going to be up to the school districts and the county health departments. And then I heard today that the governor is going to recommend that all schools go back and obviously put together their plan for how they would adhere to social distancing. I feel like the rumors keep going on and on and on. And a lot of it is hearsay. Even on my end, I'm hearing it, second and third hand from superintendents who heard it from superintendents that might have been on the governor's cabinet. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that we are going to form a task force, and we're going to make it as safe as possible when we reopen in the fall. And I will be asking, like I said, teachers, parents, and administrators to be on that task force. I might even ask some students to be on it. I'm not sure yet what that's going to look like, but I just want to wait until I get a little bit more guidance. I just wanted to keep everybody in the loop on that. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
When do you start this?
Again, I'm going to wait to see if we get a little bit more guidance from the governor. But if I don't have any guidance over the next couple of weeks, and I think superintendents, again, I don't know personally any superintendents who are serving on that committee with the governor. I've asked, and I don't know anybody personally. I've talked to superintendents who said they know of a couple of superintendents who are, but they're really pressing the governor to be able to give out some kind of direction so we can make some decisions. But if I don't hear, anything in the next couple of weeks, we're going to put the task force together and we'll move forward. And what we'll do is have a couple different plans, probably plan A, plan B, plan C. If plan A, they say we can start normal, this is what it looks like. Plan B says we have to do a mix of online learning and in-person learning. This is what it could look like. Plan C, if it's all virtual, this is what it looks like. So we'll have several different plans and see which one the governor shoots out of the water and says you can't do it. And we'll go with the one that he does say we can do and build upon that. So I would look to form something within the next 2 weeks with or without guidance from the governor. Hopefully we have it, but we might not.
So are you meeting with other superintendents also on this?
Yes, we talk almost every day. We have standing meetings every Friday. I informally talk to other superintendents daily. And matter of fact, I talked to one superintendent today just north of us, and he said the same thing I did. He's got it. He already has his committees formed, but they're not really doing a whole lot because he wants to wait for guidance from the governor as well. I think that's a pretty common theme right now. Some people have developed plans, thought out plans, and have already developed A, B, and C and said, these are our plans, and now we'll wait for guidance, and whatever one he says we can't do, we'll just cross off. But I personally just want to wait for a little guidance, a little detail.
Well, and I was listening to the governor today, and he said your local health department has the final say on that. Is our local health department the Hamilton County?
Yes, Hamilton County Public Health, and I probably talked to them. I talked to a gentleman by the name of Tucker Stone who works for Hamilton County Public Health probably 2 to 3 times a week. I'll email them different questions, and I know they've probably been getting slammed, but they have been really great with response time and getting back to me right away, and they're very professional. And some of the answers we haven't liked, when I've been talking to them about graduation and things like that, but they're very responsive, and they're trying to do the best they can for us, but at the same time protect the health of everybody.
So as we're talking about this, I don't know if this is a good segue or not, but the buildings are closed and our properties and everything are closed till the end of June unless the governor rescinds that or makes it longer, right?
Chris, that's a great comment. So school buildings are closed until June 30th at 11:59 p.m. right now. The governor did create some confusion earlier. It might have been yesterday. When it might have been over the weekend, I can't remember. It all blurs together now. But allowing non-contact like community sports, like not whole baseball, whatever other type of non-contact sport you can think of, but it's not school sports. So our school sports are not permitted to do anything right now up until June 30th, because I know OHSAA is following the governor's orders with the closing of school. Again, I'll just get this out of the way now. I had it slated for board discussion, but we've had some questions about churches and about dance groups. We have recitals at the end of July. And for those type of people, the non-contact sport ruling is for outside facilities. So like our baseball field, okay? And again, it's non-school sports that he is giving permission to, if we allow him to use our outside facilities. It did not have an effect for actual school facilities inside the school, like gymnasiums. Right now, the schools are shut. They're closed to students until June 30th. They're going to remain closed to students until June 30th. That means nobody can utilize our gymnasiums or our auditoriums until that restriction is lifted and the mass gathering order of 10 or more people are lifted. Churches are different. Churches follow different rules and regulations. The Hamilton County Health Department has said as long as the churches can follow the reopening of Ohio guidelines that the governor has put out within the last few days, that if a school district would like to allow them to use their gymnasium for church services, they can do that. It's not students, and churches aren't bound by those same orders. So there will be some things that we have to make executive decisions on. For me personally, I recommend we follow the governor's orders. As far as if he's telling us schools are closed to kids till June 30th, they're closed to kids. But if he's saying that outside, like a church can use our facility, as long as they follow all the reopening guidelines and the social distancing orders of wearing masks, remain 6 feet apart, and they can follow those things, and there's signs in there in the lobby, stating these things, then they can do that. And I would say, give it a shot. As soon as they tell us we can let kids back in, I want to be able to let kids back in, following all the safety protocols. So I just recommend we follow the orders of the governor. And if they allow certain groups to utilize our facilities, we allow it to happen. When they allow kids to utilize our facilities, we allow it to happen. Does anybody have? Hold on 1 second, Chris. I'm not sure where that feedback.
I'm wondering that too. It shows Dan Downey's in now.
Okay. Dan, I'm gonna,
My dog is barking. Like our track check, because I do, I want to make sure that eventually that our kids back in front of them.
so again, our track is closed to, unfortunately, when Deer Park Schools is closed, our kids, our track team, they can't utilize the track. I can't remember, Chris, we'd have to look at the order if track and field is part of the low non-contact sport, but if there is a low to non-contact sport such as track, and the governor says that, the community team can proceed, if we as a school district allow them to use the track, we can do that. But our school team, because our schools are closed, can't. So
Right,
that's
but
why
what
there was
about
some confusion.
coming in and using the track? So what I'm saying is the public coming in and being able to use the track, because usually we allow that to happen, or is that considered part of the school property?
No, outdoor facilities. So if a person wanted to come and walk our track, the community, as long as they're adhering to social distancing, they can do that. But,
Okay, so we'll have to do that.
but you can also not have more than 10 people.
Kids can then go there. Okay, I was just checking because I've heard back and forth where the
Yeah.
school was
And
supposed to
here's the great thing is that with our positive relationship with the Hamilton County Health Department, and 1 second, I'm going to stop. Could everybody put their sound on mute until they're ready to speak? There's just a lot of feedback and it's hard to hear. There we go. But if I ever have a question, I can talk to the Hamilton County Health Department and they'll get back to me right away. So if we ever have questions about that, as far as, if that question comes to me about the track, which, obviously you've asked it, and I haven't had that question come to me yet. So I haven't thought through it thoroughly. I believe because it is an outside facility and I don't know if it's listed on the low contact sport. If it is, I think they would be able to use our track as a community, but not our school track and field team. So I'll figure out a better answer for you on that one.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah. It's been a little murky and a little muddy, especially since he left that, since the governor had allowed low to non-contact sports to resume community sports. It's definitely been murky and there's been a lot of questions and quite frankly, we don't know all the answers. There's new guidance and new documents coming to us every day regarding all those things. So it's a good question. And if you ever have, and I'll say this, those of you in the community that are watching, if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to email me or call me and I'll find out for you right away. Okay. Really, that is the end of my reports, Mrs. Bossy. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? And please don't forget to unmute yourself if you do.
I just was following up. I was having trouble hearing Chris. So I know you were talking about the track. I heard your end of it, but once you find that answer, will you put something out on how people can utilize the track? Because I've heard that the gates are always locked, but weren't they supposed to be open during certain hours? So just clarification on that.
Okay.
And then also, I'm assuming that will be the same with the use of the baseball fields because we used to rent those out to Knothole.
Yep. And they will continue to contact our athletic director to run our
Will
facilities.
they be able to utilize the restroom? Because that was one of the things I was kind of listening to the governor today about, if they're allowed to use the baseball field, then do we open up the restrooms and that too?
Yep, I would have to look into his order. I think it talks to the restrooms, and I believe it said that restrooms have to remain closed, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that.
And the other thing is there are cameras on the track because I don't want any vandalism going on. I'm just gonna throw that right out there.
Yep, we have cameras everywhere.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure restrooms, I feel like all the businesses are keeping theirs closed because of the trying to keep them clean. There's just no way that you can follow up with that. Which that's my only comment and concern with any of the organizations coming in and using is who's responsible for cleaning those to make sure that anything that's been touched or, is COVID gotten rid of or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Are we on the board comment? Because here we are.
No, not yet, Chris. We're on to recommendations. I just wanted to know if there was anything for your reports.
Hard time hearing. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and before we move on, Peggy, Dan, are you able to speak through the computer and can you hear us okay? You are on mute.
Yeah, Jay, I'm good. I moved
Good.
to my downstairs computer and was able to get on.
Fantastic, good deal.
All right. So we're on to recommendations of the superintendent.
All right. Okay, my first recommendation is to accept the food service donation in the amount of $200 from an anonymous donor to be used at the discretion of the Director of Food Services.
I have a motion. People are gonna have to unmute now. Please.
So moved.
Thanks, Karen.
Second.
Thanks, Paul. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the acceptance of the food service donation, in the amount of $200, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My next recommendation is to accept the donation in the amount of $25 from Elizabeth Feldhaus in memory of Carol Nolan to be used at the discretion of the superintendent.
So move.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of accepting the donation in the amount of $25 from Elizabeth Feldhaus in memory of Karen Nolan, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My next recommendation is to approve the adoption of the collective bargaining agreement between the Deer Park Education Association and the Deer Park Board of Education beginning July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the collective bargaining agreement between the Deer Park Education Association and the Deer Park Board of Education beginning July 1st, 2020 and going through June 30th of 2023, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And thanks to all who worked on that to get that approved and settled.
Yes, thanks. My next recommendation is to approve the classified exempt salary schedule for 2021, 21, 22, and 22, 23.
So move.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the classified exempt salary schedule from 2020 through 2023, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My next recommendation is to approve the overnight field trip for the 8th grade to Washington, D.C., beginning November 10th, 2020 to November 13th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Assuming
What's
that,
the feasibility of that taking
Yeah.
place? Are we just planning for what could happen?
Yeah, they're actually, we talked last week about a backup date, and I know Mrs. Estep at Amity is actually leading the trip this year, and she was working with Mr. Hartley on creating that backup date sometime later in the spring. You know, honestly, my thought right now is it's probably 50-50.
Yeah. Was there any more discussion on potential refund if need be, or has that been resolved?
Are you talking about for the band trip?
Well, the band trip was one, but now the Washington DC trip.
Yeah, I think.
I assume everybody's putting money up for this.
Yeah, they started making payments. There is, I believe, and Dan, don't quote me on this, I'd have to check with Katie. But I believe they do have insurance on that trip. And then
Good.
I believe on the band trip, last I talked to Mr. Bauer, they were going to be able to get close to all their money back. I don't know if it'll be all 100%, but I believe they were able to get back most of it, which was definitely a huge bonus and a blessing for us.
Good deal. Thank you.
Mhm.
all right, all those in favor of approving the overnight field trip for the 8th grade to go to Washington, D.C. from November 10th, 2020 to November 13th, 2020, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. My next recommendation is to approve the overnight field trip for 5th grade Camp Kern beginning October 5th to October 7th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the overnight field trip for the 5th grade to Camp Kern from October 5th to October 7th, 2020, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Chris, I just want to make sure you can still hear us okay.
I said, yeah, I was.
Got-
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep,
Good deal.
thank you.
My next recommendation is to approve the TPA for the District Workers' Compensation Program. Comp Management, Inc. is the district's third-party administrator for its workers' comp program and claims administration for the fiscal year 2021 at an annual fee of $2,885.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion on that? All those in favor of approving the TPA for the district's workers' compensation program for fiscal year 2021, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My next recommendation is to approve the contract for occupational therapy through the Therapy Learning Center for the 2020-2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the contract with Therapy Learning Center for the 2020-2021 school year, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My next recommendation is to approve the adoption of the HCESC contract for services rendered for the 2020-2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the adoption of the HCESC contract for services rendered for the 2020-2021 school year, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My next recommendation is to approve the resolution to initiate procedures under Ohio law for the reemployment of a retired employee.
So move.
Questions or discussion?
And just to make sure everybody understands, especially in the public, one of our beloved teachers, Mr. Vetter, Joe Vetter at the high school, our assistant band director and music teacher, he's actually going to retire, and he wants to come back as a rehire beginning next year, which I think is a great thing for our district. And we love to have Mr. Vetter back as long as we can have him. So that is who this resolution pertains to.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yeah.
All those in favor of approving the resolution to initiate the procedures under Ohio law for the reemployment of a retired employee, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My next recommendation is to approve the public notice of retiree hire employee that is to be submitted for public circulation.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
And just so everybody knows, according to Ohio law, the Ohio Revised Code, we have to submit that into circulation 60 days prior to the approval, which we're looking to approve at our second board meeting in July. So our last board meeting in July.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the public notice of a retiree hire employee that is to be submitted for public circulation, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I do have some personnel this evening. My first recommendation personnel is for the employment for the 2021 school year of Tucker Berger, Alta Ellis, Steve Gentry, Jim Wergers, and Elizabeth Moore.
So move.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor of employment of Tucker Berger, Alta Ellis, Steve Gentry, Jim Wergers, and Elizabeth Moore for the 2020-2021 school year, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
I just want to say a big welcome to our two newbies there, Tucker Berger and Alta Ellis. Tucker will be Tucker will be teaching at the junior high special education, and Alta Ellis will be our director of EMIS, who will be replacing Steve Hook. So welcome to Deer Park, Tucker and Alta. My next recommendation is to approve the renewal of the administrative contract of Kelly Snyder.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor? Oh. Is Chris saying something?
I was saying that she was our school psychologist.
Yes, she is our school psychologist.
All those in favor of renewing Kelly Snyder's contract as school psychologist, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My next recommendation is to approve the renewal of certified contracts of Phyllis Davis and Emily Rathke.
So move.
I think Karen did a second, but she's muted. Melissa, if you heard that
Second.
or saw that. That's okay. I saw your mouth move. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of renewing the contracts of Phyllis Davis and Emily Rathke, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Sorry, Karen. Dan beat you to the second.
Let them have that one.
My next recommendation is to approve the resignations of Steve Hook, Joe Vetter, Brian Seamantle, and Pam Weiss.
So moved.
So, second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of accepting the resignations of Steve Hook, Joe Vetter, Brian Seamantle, and Pam Weiss, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, Chris, I'll let you have the floor on that one. You want to sprinkle the minutes?
Yes, I would like to sprinkle the minutes to go off the board for a few people, and that's Pam White, who has been our ESL teacher and has done a fantastic job. I want to again do it for Bob Winterberger and Mike Morgan, because it takes a community to do this, and both of them stepped in when we needed them to help us facilitate an outstanding year, and I don't want us to forget them. I also want to sprinkle the minutes for Steve Hook, who was our EMIS since the inception of it. And so, if I forgot anybody?
Brian Seamantle.
Brian Seamantle, I'm sorry. I can't see you, I can't talk. Brian Seamantle. What I want to say about this is that Steve Hook's been EMIS since the inception, and people probably don't even know who he is, but we couldn't do without him. And I believe he came with Bart Handel. And Mr. Seamantle, you see all the time, and he's that person that when we come in the morning, we know things are done and clean the way they're supposed to do. We just assume those things get done because Mr. Seamantle has done such an outstanding job. And the last one I want to do is I want to sprinkle the minutes to our staff, because without them, we could not have accomplished what we've done in the past 6 weeks. They are absolutely outstanding.
I second.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I'll just add, Chris, I think said it very well. Steve Hook has done a tremendous job for us as our EMIS coordinator. And he really helped us too in the interview process. He welcomed the opportunity to help us develop the interview and take a look at these candidates and help us get the best person on board. And he's willing to help out as much as he can. But I know it's going to be a nice change for Steve to be able to actually be retired and spend some time at home with his wife out in Okeana. And again, Brian Seamantle has done a fantastic job for us as well. Well-deserved time away. And, I know Brian has battled some health issues over the past couple of years and he's worked really hard to come back and do a great job for us. And he's one of those just nice guys. You always talk to Brian. He's just is nice and kind and will do anything for you. So we're definitely going to miss Brian. And then Pam, she's been doing ESL for us for the last 8 years, and our ESL scores on the assessments come back and she works with the students every year. She just does a tremendous job. And so we're going to miss her as well. So we have some big shoes to fill. And obviously, congratulations to Joe Vetter on his official retirement, but we look forward to having him back in district for next year. So.
We are fortunate to have so many wonderful people who are so dedicated to the Deer Park community. It's just amazing.
So that is the end of my recommendations, Mrs. Bossy.
All right, on to board discussion, which we had a lot of it earlier, but does anybody else have anything else they would like to add?
One other thing. So we talked a lot about the groups that are going to be, that could potentially be utilizing our facilities, outdoor, indoor. The other piece of that is Champions, okay? Champions applied for their pandemic license, just didn't get enough numbers to be able to actually roll that out during the last 2 months. But they were looking to hold a summer program, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get the numbers for a summer program either, unfortunately, this year. So I just wanted to make the board and the community aware of that as well. I was informed by Amber with Champions, I believe yesterday or over the weekend, that they just didn't have the numbers to be able to operate. And there are different parameters under this COVID-19 crisis that they have to operate under, and so they have to have so many kids and so many adults. And so unfortunately, they're not going to be able to operate a summer program, but looking forward to having them back in the fall when school starts back up.
Thank you. Anything else?
I would like to discuss stock. Do you have any? I was listening to the governor today, and I recognize it just appears to me that we might be kind of in flux until June 30th, and it appears that prom is June 18th. So I've seen very many parents asking questions about it. So I thought I'd ask you.
Yeah.
That movie.
Thank you for bringing that up, Chris. And actually, I wanted to talk about that, so I'm glad you reminded me. So prom is obviously another one of those rites of passages for our seniors, and really our juniors and our seniors. And we've been trying to do everything we can to make prom happen, as everybody knows. We postponed it to June. And with school buildings being shut down to June 30th, we're not going to be able to have the June prom. But what Mr. Hartley is going to do, we have a backup date in July. Mr. Hartley is going to send out an email. He's actually going to send 2 separate surveys, one to kids, but then one to parents as well. And basically, he's going to let them know that, we cannot have prom due to the closures of the buildings until June 30th. We're not going to be able to have prom in June. But if by chance we're able to move forward with prom in July, will there be interest? He's going to ask that of students. And he's also going to ask that of parents, meaning even if the students are interested, are the parents going to feel comfortable sending their kids to a prom in July if we are allowed? The other piece that he's going to make sure to stress, and that I want to stress right now, is we don't know if a July prom would be allowed. If I was a betting man, I would say that it's not going to be allowed. But with that being said, even if we plan a temporary date for July, what I don't want is our families and our kids going and spending a ton of money on prom dresses and on other things for prom, only for us not to be able to have it, because I don't want our families to be out money over this. So we want to do this for our kids. We want them to be able to experience and to have this opportunity, but I also don't want it to negatively affect our families. So Mr. Hartley is going to send that survey out tomorrow. Again, I stress that even if we say, okay, we're going to we're going to put a prom date input, we're moving forward with a July date, that doesn't mean we can actually do it. We have to have permission for the government. Yes, it's at the Cincinnati Freedom Center. Yes, so there's a lot that has to come into play for us to be able to do it. So again, we'll put the date on the calendar. We'll give every effort we can. We want to make sure our seniors know that we are trying for them and that we want them to be able to experience it. But again, if I'm a bet man, I'm going to say that it's probably not going to happen. But if they open it up and say do it, we'd like to have it ready to go and organized so that we can do it. But please don't go out and spend a bunch of money on different things right now to plan for a July prom, because we don't know if it's going to be able to happen or not.
not out any money on the account.
No, and it's the same thing with band camp. And when as long as the schools are closed, we can't do any of those school affiliated functions either. And so it's very likely that they'll extend the school closures beyond June 30th. And if they do, we'll just play it by ear. So unfortunately, we can't plan for everything and know exactly what's going to happen. But as I look at this, the governor is slowly opening things back up. Obviously, over the past weekend, I think some groups of people took advantage of that. You saw pictures across the state of restaurants or bars or whatnot where there were large gatherings. And, I think 2 to 3 weeks is going to be very telling. If we see a second surge or a second spike based on all the contact that has been happening and occurring over the last few days, well, I think there's a very good chance that they'll come back in and shut everything back down. And that could really impact us for the fall. If we see numbers stay steady where they are in 2, 3, 4 weeks, well, then I feel a little bit more optimistic about things for the summer and for the fall. But, we kind of got to play it by ear and wait and see.
Okay, I think that, I do have one more thing. You have your advisory committee that's made up of students.
Yes.
Does that go through, is that going through this summer, or when the seniors graduate, are you going to put out the new ones, or how is that work?
Yeah, we, typically, obviously, this was the first year I had done that. And
Outstanding, by the way.
the plan for it was to run through the length of the school year. I did meet with this group virtually through Zoom or Google Hangout a few weeks ago to discuss a few items. But what we'll do is the seniors that graduate will put out new applications and try to get representation from grades 9 through 12 again for next year. And we'll run the same thing again and hopefully have some new people on. I do want to give the folks that have been on it the opportunity to continue on. I haven't decided kind of what the tenure is. If it's a 2-year run, if you're a freshman, if you're guaranteed freshman and sophomore year, if you have to reapply every year. I haven't thought through the details, but we will definitely have a superintendent student advisory council again next year. I thought it was a great addition, and it allowed me to hear the student's voice and student perspective, and hopefully allow them to get to know me a little differently too, in a little different light.
Well, I think it was very beneficial with what's going on now because their voices were heard, and they did get some good insight on things.
Yeah, and just an FYI, we really met with seniors on student council for some of the other decisions here at the end of the year. But our superintendent student advisory council did give a lot of input. And unfortunately for them, it was a job left unfinished. We have a lot of work to do. We were working on some discipline things at the end of the year, and we kind of had to put a hold on that. But we'll continue it into next year and continue the good work.
My list is done.
All right.
Okay. Anybody else? I just want to give a quick shout out. You gave a shout out to Jake for all those videos, and I agree 100%. And in addition to that, all of the staff who made their video, their slides, it was amazing. Everybody did a really nice job. Love the professionalism of it.
Thank you. I would agree. I would just echo what you said and what Chris said earlier about our staff. Time and time again, they come up huge for us. And I mean, when I say it, I believe it 110%. We have the best staff I've ever seen. They're awesome.
I agree.
When we ask them to do something or when we put the challenge out there, they rise above it every time. I love our staff.
Agreed.
So thank you.
All right. Anything else?
No.
All right. We are ready to adjourn. If I could have a motion.
So
I'll
moved.
move.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning tonight's meeting, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all who are out there listening and staying with us. It was a rather long one with a couple bumps along the way, but not a bad meeting. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.